My 15-year-old daughter got a second-degree burn while helping in the kitchen before my mom's birthday. She can still stir with the other hand, my mom said, then made her finish prepping dinner for 18 people. When I found out, I didn't yell. I did this. 3 hours later, I had 53 missed calls. I walked in smiling. That's the part I keep thinking about. The smile. The light. Friendly. Everything's just fine smile I had on my face when I opened my mother's front door and stepped into what looked, for 5.5 seconds, like a perfectly pleasant family gathering. The smell hit me first. Garlic butter and the faint whiff of store-bought Celebration. The kind of perfume only my mother would call homemade. The house was full. My siblings were there. Their kids were chasing each other between the living room and kitchen, high on Sprite and frosting. The adults were drinking cheap wine and pretending not to judge each other. My mom was holding court near the stove, dramatically spooning some brownish-orange sauce across a tray of lasagna like it was her final painting. My dad stood beside her, nodding at nothing. Everything looked normal. Everything looked fine. And that's how I knew something was wrong, because Olivia wasn't there. Now, my daughter isn't the center of attention type. She's not the kid doing cartwheels in the front yard or giving impromptu speeches about endangered frogs at the dinner table. But she's always present, helpful, observant. A steady hum in the background, folding napkins, pouring drinks, or answering politely when her uncles ask if she has a boyfriend yet. She wouldn't just disappear. So I asked, "Where's Olivia?" My sister's oldest daughter looked up from her phone and shrugged. She said she wasn't feeling great. Went to lie down, I think. Probably just tired. My brother added, sipping beer like this was normal. They had her running around all afternoon. Someone laughed. Maybe she's having one of those days. One cousin joked, smirking. The kind of smirk that carries through generations. My mother rolled her eyes like I'd asked where the queen was. She's fine. Teenagers. You know how dramatic they can be. And I wish I had stopped smiling right then. I wish I had dropped the cake I was holding, pushed past them, and run straight to find my daughter. But I didn't. I laughed lightly, said something like, "I'll go check on her," and handed the cake off to my sister, who, by the way, didn't blink. The hallway was loud. The door to the guest room was shut. I knocked gently. "Olivia?" Silence. Then a rustle. "Mom?" That's when I knew. It was the way she said it. Small, fragile, and so unlike her usual deadpan, one-eyebrow-raised sarcasm. I opened the door. She was curled on the edge of the bed, cradling a bottle of cold water against her left hand. Her face was flushed and blotchy, her eyes glassy. Her right hand trembled as she tried to keep the bottle from slipping. "Sweetheart, what happened?" "I burned it." The words came out flat, like she'd run out of volume. I sat beside her. She flinched slightly, then relaxed. She let me take the bottle away. The skin on the back of her hand was angry red, blistered with the beginnings of clear, raw bubbles forming across her knuckles. "How long ago?" "A while." "How long is a while?" "I don't know, 2 hours, maybe more." My blood ran cold. "You didn't tell anyone?" "I did." Her voice cracked. "I told Grandma and Grandpa, and Auntie Lila and Uncle Nate. I told them all." "What did they say?" She swallowed. That I was being dramatic. That I just didn't want to help. I blinked. "Grandma said I could stir with my other hand." There was the sentence. The one that would later snap in my mind like a trap. I stood up. They were leaving. "But the party isn't worth a second-degree burn." I helped her up gently. She winced as she slid her hand into the sleeve of her hoodie. I guided her out the hallway quietly, past the bathroom, past the stairs, past the sound of my mother's laughter floating up from the kitchen like steam. She didn't see us. None of them did. We got into the car. I drove fast, but not too fast. Not enough for Olivia to see I was panicking. Just fast enough to get her where she needed to be. The triage nurse looked at her hand and called for a doctor within 30 seconds. The words infection risk, possible scarring, and delayed treatment were used. They bandaged it carefully, explained what to do, told her she'd need follow-up care. Then they asked me, quietly but clearly, why no one had brought her in sooner. I didn't answer. Because how do you explain to a stranger that your daughter was in a room full of adults, relatives no less, while her skin blistered and throbbed and screamed, and not one of them thought she deserved medical attention? How do you explain that your mother, the woman who posted baby photos of her angel granddaughter all over Facebook, told her to stir with the other hand? How do you explain that your daughter didn't even cry until the car ride because she didn't want to ruin Grandma's birthday? We left the ER with a folder of instructions, a prescription, and a bag of medical supplies. My phone buzzed the moment we stepped outside. 1 missed call, then 2, then 6, then 13. Texts were rolling in. Where did you go? Is everything okay? Did Olivia leave with you? Mom's asking. We're cutting the cake soon. I didn't answer. It scrolled by the time we got home, and I tucked her into bed with her hand wrapped in gauze like a fragile truth. I had 53 missed calls, and none of them were apologies. Not yet. But they were coming, just not in the way they expected. They say your childhood shapes your worldview. Mine shaped my pain tolerance. I don't mean that in some sentimental, self-help book way. I mean literally. My body learned not to react. Stubbed toes? Shake it off. Fever? Go to school. Sprained wrist at age 12 while dragging laundry upstairs? Still had to cook dinner. That kind of shaping. I used to think that made me strong. But standing there in the ER, watching a nurse bandage my daughter's blistered hand while she sat quiet and composed and utterly defeated, I realized something ugly. I hadn't just inherited that tolerance, I'd passed it on. Because she hadn't screamed, hadn't made a scene, hadn't begged anyone to help. She'd stayed polite, obedient, invisible, just like I used to. I was the oldest of 3. My sister and brother came 2 years apart. I was 4 years older. I came first, which meant I came at the worst possible time. My mother used to say I rushed her into adulthood, like I'd ruined something sacred by being born inconveniently. She got pregnant with me at 19, married my dad at 20, and never stopped blaming me for both. When my siblings arrived, things got better for them. My dad got a raise. They bought a house with a yard and upgraded the dishwasher. The financial strain of early parenthood turned into backyard barbecues and camcorder birthdays. But by then, I was already the third parent, the unpaid one. I don't remember the first time I was told to help out. It wasn't an event. It was air, constant. Bathe your sister. Keep your brother occupied. Make lunch. Do your homework. Don't whine. There was no thank you, just more tasks. I remember getting the flu in 6th grade. High fever, full body aches, dizzy just from blinking. I told my mom I didn't think I could go to school. She sighed and said, "Well, I still have to go to work, don't I?" That was the end of that conversation. I went to school. I threw up behind a tree at recess, then got in trouble for not participating in gym. I remember thinking, clearly, vividly, that maybe I'd earn some sympathy if I fainted. Not because I wanted to scare anyone, but because I'd been trained to believe that if the suffering wasn't public, it didn't count. Fast forward to high school. I wanted to study medicine. I loved science, loved the idea of solving mysteries in people's bodies. I shadowed a pediatrician for 1 week and came home glowing. I said, "I think I want to be a doctor." My mom blinked and laughed. "That's not for people like us." People like us meant working class. It meant I wasn't pretty enough, smart enough, rich enough, or worth the investment. She said nursing was more realistic, practical. I'd still be helping people. Helping. Always helping. I applied to a community program. Got in. Grants, scholarships, a job on weekends to make it work. No one helped me with applications. No one bought me a laptop. No one even asked how classes were going. But they were happy to tell their friends, "Our daughter's a nurse." Meanwhile, my sister got ballet later. She got a BA in something called environmental sociology, which I think translates to "please hire me, I'm interesting." My brother got writing camps, film school visits, and a 2-year degree he still doesn't use. They didn't have to earn support. It was handed to them like a preheated plate. And to be fair, they weren't cruel. They just never questioned it. Why would they? I earn more than both of them now, by a lot. But I still get texts like, "Can you help with back-to-school stuff? Do you know a good doctor for mom's knees? Can you check out this weird mole on my son's arm?" I'm the family ATM and Google search bar. Medical concierge with a smile, until recently. Back in the hospital, Olivia didn't say much. She let the doctor talk, let the nurse wrap her hand. She thanked everyone, even flinching. When we got home, I made her tea and tucked her in with Netflix and a weighted blanket. She finally let out a shaky breath and said, "It's weird. It hurts more now." I nodded. That's because someone finally noticed. She paused. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "I think I want to go into medicine, like to be a doctor. I've always wanted to, but I thought maybe I'd do nursing instead." My heart stopped for a second. "Why?" She shrugged, eyes on the blanket. "Because we're not rich, and you're a nurse, and you're amazing. And I just thought maybe that's more realistic, you know. She wasn't asking for permission. She was asking if it was allowed. And for a second, I saw myself at 15, watching my mother say, "That's not for people like us," and shrinking to fit the mold. But Olivia wasn't going to shrink, not if I had anything to do with it. I didn't say everything I was thinking in that moment. I didn't cry or give a speech. I just said, "You can be whatever the hell you want, and I'll find a way to get you there." But in my mind, I was already building the road. I keep thinking about how pain echoes, how one moment, one burn, one look, one sentence can live in your body for years. My mom's voice still lives in mine sometimes. Still says, "Don't overreact," when I flinch. Still says, "Get over it," when I need help. But Olivia's voice is louder now, and it's my job to protect hers. The first thing I cut was the money. Not the coldest move I've ever made, but definitely the quietest. No announcement, no screaming match, just a few clicks and a short message to my bank confirming the recurring transfers were over. It was like unplugging a machine I'd been powering for years, and then just listening to the silence. After that, I wrote one sentence to my mother. "I won't be available for therapy sessions anymore. Please follow up with a licensed provider." I didn't expect a thank you, but I also didn't expect the emotional equivalent of a nuclear detonation. 15 minutes later, the phone rang. It was her. Against my better judgment, I picked up. "Oh, now you have time to answer," she said. No hello. I leaned against the counter and looked out the window. "Is this about the money or the medical help?" Silence, then a scoff. "I'm your mother," she said. "I'm in pain, and you're a nurse. You've always helped me. You made my daughter stir pasta with a second-degree burn." "That's not what happened," she snapped. "No one even knew she was that hurt." "She told you 3 times. I thought she was being dramatic." There was no regret, no apology, just the same old story wearing new lipstick. "She's 15, I said. "And I'm 62 and can't sleep from back pain," she fired back. "I thought we were family. You said she could stir with the other hand." My voice didn't even crack. I'd practiced that sentence in the mirror. She went quiet on the other end, just breathing. "You're punishing us over one little misunderstanding," she finally muttered. "No, I'm just not pretending anymore." And I hung up. I half expected a marching band of guilt to arrive at my door the next day. Balloons. Maybe a bouquet that said, "Sorry, you have boundaries now." Instead, there was nothing. No texts, no calls, no late-night emails from my sister pretending she just wanted to check in. Just space. And for the first time in I don't know how long, I had time, actual time. I took Olivia for coffee on a school night. We sat on the couch and watched trash TV with ice packs on her hand and fuzzy socks on both of us. I went to bed before midnight and woke up not dreading anything. It was weird, like I'd accidentally stepped into someone else's life. And then the group chat lit up. My mom beat me to it, always the one with a head start. "We're being cut off." Olivia never said she was hurt. She just said she was tired. We thought she went to lie down. We didn't know anything was wrong. I've been in so much pain lately, and now my daughter won't speak to me, even though she's a nurse. I stared at the screen. It was like watching someone rewrite history with crayons. She left out the part where they told Olivia she was lazy, where they laughed, where they gave her the pan. She left out the part where Olivia spent 2 hours working with raw, blistered skin because she didn't want to ruin Grandma's birthday. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I didn't want to give a speech, so I didn't. I just posted a photo of Olivia's hand, fully bandaged, with the hospital logo visible in the corner. And then I wrote, "She told you 3 times. You laughed. You told her to stir with the other hand. She cooked through a second-degree burn. That's why we left." The chat froze. One cousin left a thumbs up, another left the group entirely. And then, hours later, long after I thought the dust had settled, came the message I didn't expect. It was from my aunt, my mom's sister. I didn't want to get involved, but I was there. I blinked. I heard what they said. They gave her the hot dish on purpose, said it would teach her to be more careful. Then they laughed about how dramatic she was. They didn't think she'd actually get hurt, but they wanted to prove a point. I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. I didn't cry. Thought I would. But instead I smiled. Not a happy smile. Not even a relieved one. Just the kind of smile you make when you realize your instincts were right. That you weren't being too sensitive. That it really was that bad. That they really did think pain was a teaching tool, and that someone else finally had the nerve to say it out loud. Olivia didn't read the chat. I didn't want her to. She was asleep on the couch, curled up under the same blanket she'd used the night we got home from the ER. Her hand rested on top of the pillow, Now the swelling had gone down. The skin was still red, but healing. I sat beside her and scrolled through the messages one more time. Then I turned off my phone and I breathed. They mocked her pain, told her to stir with the other hand, then tried to erase the truth. But someone finally said it out loud. I thought the screaming would stop after the aunt spoke up. You'd think a public message saying they gave your daughter a scalding dish on purpose would at least earn me a quiet few weeks, some family reflection, maybe even a lukewarm apology. Instead, it triggered what I now lovingly refer to as the pre-legal panic era. No one said the word lawsuit, of course. My family's allergic to anything that might involve accountability or paperwork. But suddenly, everyone had an opinion, a theory, a rewritten version of events where no one remembered, no one meant anything, and no one was to blame. It was like watching a gaslighting circus, where every act involved erasing my daughter's pain just a little more creatively. So I stopped replying. Until the phone rang one quiet afternoon, and it was my grandmother. She doesn't call much. We visit her every 2 weeks like clockwork, and she's not big on phones. But she'd been reading the chat, every word, every emoji, every lie. She didn't even say hello. I saw what your aunt said. I saw what your mother did, and I'm done. I sat down. I changed the will. Everything goes to you. Silence on my end. She continued, perfectly calm. They think showing up to a party entitles them to a legacy, but legacies go to the ones who clean up the mess. That's you. Then, softer, and if I'm still around when Olivia starts med school, and I damn well plan to be, tell her to call me if she ever needs anything. I don't remember what I said. I think I asked if she was sure, maybe twice. She said, you show up, they don't, and I'm not dying yet, so if they want to fight me on it, they can do it to my face. I didn't tell Olivia right away. Not because I didn't want to, I just needed to breathe it in for a minute, let the air change. But that night, I sat on her bed and I told her everything, about the call, the will, what it meant. She stared at me, wide-eyed. All of it? All of it. She was quiet for a moment, then, so, she meant it? About helping with med school? I couldn't stop the smile. We don't have to figure it out anymore. We just get to say yes now. She hugged me and didn't let go for a long time. 2 weeks later, we went to visit Grandma. Same as always. Me, Olivia, my husband, a bag of groceries, in the usual Sunday rhythm. She made us tea. We sat in the living room. It felt normal, which should have been my first clue. The knock on the door was sharp, rehearsed, like someone had planned how it would land. And then they walked in, all 4 of them. My parents, my sister, my brother. Olivia stiffened next to me. My husband stood up without a word, and I didn't move an inch. Oh, how nice, my grandmother muttered, not even bothering to hide her disgust. The vultures made it in time for dessert. My father didn't laugh. He pointed. You manipulated her. My mother's voice cracked like a hinge. We didn't know. We didn't mean... My brother, who hadn't spoken to Grandma in months, cut in. You've poisoned her against us. This was supposed to be split. My sister, who once asked me to Venmo her grocery money mid-vacation, went for the dramatic close. You made her choose sides. I stood up. No, I said. She made her choice. I made mine. And you. You made dinner out of my daughter's pain. My mother's face turned a shade I hadn't seen since she tried a juice cleanse. You don't know what you're doing. Actually, my grandmother said, standing slowly, she does. The room fell quiet. She looked at all 4 of them and said, with the kind of calm that only terrifies the unprepared, I've watched you take from her for years. And I watched you dismiss that girl's injury like she was a prop in your birthday parade. She pointed at Olivia, whose hand, still healing, was resting in her lap. She's the only one here I'm proud of. Then she looked at me. Get them out of my house. I didn't have to. My father walked out first, red-faced and muttering. My mother followed, still crying but quieter now. My siblings trailed behind, arms crossed, eyes on the floor. No one said goodbye. 3 days later, their family vacation was officially canceled. Not that they told me, but Olivia showed me a cousin's post, originally meant for close friends only, about how plans fell through and some people ruined everything. I didn't respond. Mostly because Olivia had me elbow deep in med school websites. Even though she still has 3 years, apparently prepping early is her new hobby. Could be worse. Could have been pottery. That night, she curled up beside me on the couch, her head on my shoulder, and whispered, You didn't just protect me. You believed me. That's different. And that's when I knew I'd done something I'd never been given. I hadn't just defended her, I'd chosen her, over my parents, over peacekeeping, over pride. I'd chosen her, and she knew it. So did I. So did I go too far, or not nearly far enough? I didn't shout. I didn't threaten. I didn't drag anyone to court. I just stopped giving them what they were never entitled to, and chose my daughter instead. Some people say that's harsh, others say it's overdue. But I'm curious what you think. Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, raw and sometimes a little messy, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell.